Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to get started today. We're going to do two exercises. We're going to get into barbell, low bar, barbell squatting, and also kettlebell swing. I'm going to use the kettlebell swing as an activator for the squat. Hopefully, if you're watching this, you've got a home gym, rack, barbell, dumbbells, kettlebell. So basically bars, bells, body weight, bands. That's what we're going to get into. That is all you need. And if you have those things, especially right now with quarantine going on, you are doing fucking awesome because I don't think gyms are going to be opening back up anytime in the foreseeable future. So online training, if you're interested, hit me up. I'd love to help you. Once again, if you've got bars, bells, bands, and body weight, you're killing it. You got everything that you need, and we can be a little bit more creative from there. But as promised, I wanted to do a whole series of videos. I'm going to do a video every single day. I've been sitting on my butt waiting to get back to work, and it's not going to happen, so I'm going to push all my attention, all my energy into YouTube and see if I can help you guys out. So again, we're going to be looking at low bar back squats today and kettlebell swing, two basic exercises. But we're going to start from foundational principles. What are the most important elements of strength training to me? How do we do them? How do we get stronger safely, mindfully, tactically? Good word to be thinking about, especially in these days. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, guys, so I'm not one of those super high dollar YouTube shows that has a cameraman moving around, following me everywhere. The camera is going to be fixed on the rack today, and I'm going to try to work back in this space where you can see the majority from my feet to head. So I'm going to be moving in and out. I hope the sound quality comes out well, but it is what we got. So I want to get started today talking about basic principles that need to underlie everything that you do when we're dealing with strength training, weight training, any kind of resistance training. The first thing that we need to talk about is mindset, or your intention. At the end of the day, when we get done with however many hundreds of videos that I need to do, you're going to clearly see there is one principle that underlies all strength training in really pretty much any movement modality. It doesn't matter if it's yoga, martial arts, tactical shooting, resistance training with kettlebells, dumbbells, barbells. It doesn't matter. That one principle is what you are doing. What is my intention? You must set your intention first. As basic as that may sound, most people aren't moving that way. They're not training that way. They're a bit mindless, and they're just moving shit from A to B, and this is where injury happens. If we stay with our intention, if we stay mindful, present in our body, injury can be mitigated to almost 0%. All right? So I want you to pay extreme attention to what and how you are performing movement at all times. With that being said, the first place we need to put our intention is inside of our own body. The only difference that's going to articulate all the exercises, for instance today, we're going to be looking at low bar squats and kettlebell swings. Two exercises that have subtle differences. The subtle difference is going to be the speed of the movement, and especially what Stuart is doing with Stuart's joints, my hips, knees, and ankles. The only thing that makes a squat different than a deadlift, a conventional deadlift different than a sumo, sumo different than the Romanian deadlift different than the kettlebell swings, the ollie lifts, etc., is what you are doing with your joints. That's it. With that being said, the only joints that are going to move are the shoulders, the elbows, and sometimes the wrists. Hips, moving a lot. That's your primary mover, so we need to understand how to move them primarily. knees, and ankles. So as we start to get into different exercises, you will clearly see the one big chunk of my body called the spine is the only part of my entire body I do not want to articulate in any way whatsoever. Now, let's get started with a little organization. So we're going to start with just a body weight squat and start to get warmed up. Head is neutral, and that means I don't want my face sticking forward. I don't want to pull it back. I don't want to look up. I don't want to look down. When we're squatting, the eyes need to stay neutral. They will scroll down, just like a camera, and scroll back up. If my head is fixed and neutral, it's not moving. The same principle applies if I'm doing a Romanian deadlift. My eyes are scrolling down, they are scrolling up. I don't want any kind of articulation in the neck, hyperextension, hyperflexion, nothing happening in the neck whatsoever. The C-spine is one of the most easily damaged areas of the spine. The second is shoulder blades, scapular retraction. Every single lift that you're going to do successfully is predicated on the shoulder being in a stable, strong position, and that means your scapula is retracted. Now, if your head is neutral, shoulder blades are back in retraction, there tends to be a hyperextension that happens in the lower back. And what we're going to do to mitigate that is to bring the floating ribs down to the top of the hip, and we're going to do that with an abdominal contraction and also a sense of tightening in from the side. So if you breathe in and expand and then contract, not just down, everything is coming around 360 and tightening. From here, head is neutral, shoulder blades are back, the core is tight. My feet are screwed into the floor, rotating externally. This is so important and something that I will continue to harp on over and over and over. At the end of the day, your sensory perception in the squat should not be out in space. It should be the feeling that you have in your feet, where my center of mass is over the center of the foot. If the weight, there's 4 types of squats. Body weight squat, where my hip and knee break at the same exact time. From body weight squat, we go into a goblet squat, where the weight is slightly in front of me. Once the weight is moving and the center of mass is forward, I have to allow the break to happen in the knee first. If I break in the hip, the center of mass goes forward, all the weight is on my lower back, I lose the weight. As I move into a front rack or a front squat, the third type of squatting, again, the knee must break first, followed by the hip. When we're looking at low bar squatting today, it's the exact opposite. The hip must break first, followed by knee flexion, and the last phase in the squat is abduction. We'll get into all that. Starting with the body weight squat. Head is neutral, shoulder blades are retracted, the core is tight, feet screwed into the floor. I'm going to reach hips, knees. Now we're getting into the third phase, which is abduction, which most people don't teach. 3 phases: hip flexion, knee flexion. The knees are going to move toward the edge of the toe. Now they must open to keep your back neutral and to keep your back in one plane. As soon as I hinge, my knees start moving. Now you'll notice I'm continuing to descend, but the angle in my back is not increasing. This is 100% the name of the game in squatting. If at any point I'm getting into flexion in the back or some kind of hyperflexion because I'm looking up and reaching with my butt, I'm out of extension. I must stay braced. I must push the knees apart and not too quickly. In all 4 squats, abduction phase in the knees happens last. Hips, knees, abduction. You'll see my back angle stay exactly the same. Hips, knees, abduction, back stays the same. We don't want any kind of good morning position where the back angle has now increased. Strength training at the end of the day is about mechanical advantages, not disadvantages. If I put my back in an increased angle horizontal to the floor, I am not making myself stronger. I am not making strong mechanics. I'm making myself weaker. Whether you accept that or not, I am not as strong in an RDL as I am in a conventional deadlift. The Romanian deadlift is an accessory to strengthen the posterior chain. It's not the most mechanically advantageous way to lift weights. Therefore, my back angle when squatting should not exceed 60 degrees, and really what we're looking for is 45 degrees or a little less, 30 to 45. Practice your bodyweight squats. Guys, so the first exercise we're going to get into, once you start working on those bodyweight squats, keep working on those bodyweight squats. You'll never get to a point where your squats are absolutely totally perfect. Before I do barbell squats, I'm always activating, doing some bodyweight squats. I might put an abduction band on, a couple of different corrective exercises. We'll get into all that. But I'm going to get into the two-hand swing, and then we're going to start working out. So, a couple of things about kettlebells and the swing. The first thing I want to do is, as I'm walking up to that kettlebell, I want to display that intention again. I call it addressing the bar or addressing the bell. And that basically means that before I get to it, before I start exercising, as I approach the bell, my intention is there, my presence is there, I know what I'm getting ready to do, I'm getting serious about it, I'm locked in, I'm focused, I'm in the zone. So the kettlebell is going to be a little further away in the beginning than where it's going to be when we start the exercise. So I'm going to change my angle so you can see me. So I've got a relatively light bell to start with, okay? So the bell is going to be a couple, 3 feet away from me as I begin this. I want it far enough away that as I begin to hinge, I'm going to give myself a nice little karate chop. Hip is coming back. I want to shrug to reach for the bell. I want my traps up in my ears so that when I retract and I get set with the bell, I'm using my shoulder blades, I'm using my scap, I'm pulling everything back into place. My rhomboids and mid traps are locking in. The lats are the last thing to pull in. From there, I have set the wedge. So beginning to swing the bell and setting the wedge. I've done videos on this before. It's the exact same principle as setting the wedge in a deadlift, and it looks something like this. So I'm hinging deeply. I'm going to reach forward towards that bell and shrug. From here, I'm going to slide the bell across the floor and use the friction and drop my hip down into position before I start to swing the bell. So I'm going to put it back. Hopefully you can see this. Bell is far enough away that when I reach for it, I'm having to reach forward. Again, look forward, head is neutral, organize your entire body. Hips are going to come back. I'm going to reach forward towards that bell. Now I'm going to drop my center of mass and drag my shoulder blades back, pulling the bell with me. Eyes are going to stay up and forward, and we'll talk about head position difference here. From here, I'm going to hike the bell, snap it into position. Now the hardest thing about the kettlebell swing is waiting. I want to wait till that bell is almost in my hip, then swing it. Don't swing it from the shoulders. This is a hip exercise. And make sure that last rep, you finish the way you begin. Now, a couple of things about the kettlebell swing, and we'll talk more as we get into it. My head position is different in the swing than in any barbell lift. You saw my eyes are forward. I'm looking up slightly. The reason is this is a ballistic, fast motion. I am not trying to move the bar slowly and intentionally. Powerlifting is called slow strength for a reason. It's controlled, very slow, mindful process. The swing should be a violent, fast contraction. The bell should float. From here, I'm going to wait for it. The biggest issue I see with swings is as soon as the arms come up, people start to hinge their hips. And now we're turning it really into kind of a front raise with the shoulders. It's a hip exercise. Let the bell come down, stay super tall. Reach with the hip. Keep your eye on one spot. Reach with the hip. Play chicken with the kettlebell. Let it almost hit you in the nuts or whatever you got down there, and then get out of the way. So it's going slow, fast, slow, fast. All right, so I'm going to do some videos, smaller videos, looking at the nuances of the swings, a bunch of different exercises. We're not going to get into that today. I want to get into a whole workout. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time articulating the individual exercises like the swing and the bell. Today is basically, I think you are halfway there, right? You're not a brand new beginner. Maybe you're a novice. You've been training for a little while. We just want to clean things up a little bit. So as we get into the low bar back squat, one of the first things you'll see is I'm taking my jacket off, okay? Always wear a t-shirt, tank tops won't work with the barbell. You don't want a big puffy jacket on. You can do some warm-up sets that way. But as we get into the low bar back squat, again, I'm going to do videos just on this exercise, how-to exercises. I'm going to skip through a lot of that today, and we're going to look at basic principles that we've already covered. The first one is organization. It is so important that as I begin to set up my squats, that my back stays in perfect, absolute perfect extension. As you are doing your warm-up sets, pay attention to little things. If you're tight, if you just notice something is off, don't be afraid to superset. This whole idea of doing a set and sitting down for 3 to 5 minutes is ignorant, guys. There's no reason why you can't do a set of squats. Activate with the kettlebell. Do some stretching if you like. Do some foam rolling if you like. If it makes you feel better, if it makes you feel stronger, if it makes you feel like your movement is getting better, it doesn't really matter what the fuck science says about it. We can argue that all day. At the end of the day, at the end of the workout, if you feel better, it's just like medicine, it's placebo. Placebo is 80% of medicine. If I believe it, it's fucking true. So do what you need to do to keep your range of motion perfect. With that being said, the first thing I've done is set my rack height. That rack height should be, the bar should be sitting on the front of the chest where the spine of the scapula is on the back side of your body. So somewhere in the top of the chest, about where you would bring the bar for the incline. So walk up, make sure that you're set correctly. I want to be far enough down or low enough that when I stand up, I've got a couple of inches to play with there. So as I get under the bar and I step up, I've cleared the bottom of the rack and I step back out of the way. I'm good to go. So it's going to look something like this. As I am walking up to the bar, again, I'm addressing the bar. It starts out here. I'm not just going to run up to the bar and go. The next thing I have to do is find the hand width. What is comfortable for me, this is the hardest part of the low bar back squat, is the bar position itself and the stress that it puts on the shoulders and the stretch on the pec minor. It takes a long time. So I'm going to be facing away from you. I'm going to speak up so hopefully you can hear me. Now, we know that every barbell has smooth and knurling and a ring on there, and every bar is slightly different. This is an IPF bar from Rogue, so I've got center knurling. If you're squatting, I recommend the center knurling, because a smooth deadlift bar can slide. From here, I'm going to start with my index finger wide because I'm just getting started. This is a warm-up set. I'm not going to have a full range of motion, and I'm not going to try. I'm just going to go through the mechanics of it, feel what I feel, and then as I re-rack that bar, I'm going to come back and go, okay, what do I need to stretch? What do I need to activate? So my index finger is going to be a ring of the bar. Now, next thing I'm going to do is stare at the center of the bar and bring my forehead to it. I'm doing this because when I come under, a lot of times you'll notice people are off-center, left to right. Again, the rings in the center of the knurling, all these things are appropriately spaced because at the end of the day, the weight we put on the barbell, we want centered on our body at all time and centered over the center of the foot. So, as I come through, I'm going to stare at it, walk up to it, slowly bring my head underneath it, and you can see me leaning in. I'm digging into the spine of the scapula, which is below the trap, not on the trap. I'm stepping through. My knees are going to be a little bent, and I've got a deep hip hinge here. Wiggling my head around, just getting everything set. From here, I'm going to take a big, deep breath in, and I'm going to stand straight up. Brace, stand, feel the weight. Take your time. Now you can see I'm slightly looking down. I'm trying to do it without putting any tension on my neck. I'm going to step out one time with my right foot. 1, left, 2. Left is going to go 3 and 4. You can play with your own setup. You can do it in 2 steps. You can do it in 4. 4 makes it a little bit easier to get used to. From here, you'll see me. I'm organizing from the ground up. I'm going feet, tightening my core and glutes. I'm screwing into the ground, starting to look up a little bit, keeping the elbows up against the bar. Big, deep inhale. Reach with the hip. Knees go into flexion, abduction. Boom. Inhale. Set the rib cage. Feet into the floor. Hips. Knees. Abduction. Boom. Inhale. Hips. Knees. Abduction. Boom. And you'll see my focus is keeping the bar centered over the center of my foot at all times as I lower down into the squat. Feet come together, walk all the way in, hit the rack, bend the knees a little bit, reverse the process. Okay, so I'm getting ready to go first set. I've only got 95 pounds on. I'm going to do slow, incremental jumps. I'm going to do about 7 sets today. I might work up to a top set of 5. I don't want to get into programming today. I want to get into the how and the why. So once again, every time I come up to the bar, I'm going to try to start bringing my fingers a little closer together. The closer I get, the tighter I get. Big guys can't do that. Us small guys need to work on range of motion and tightening up. So I'm going to bring my finger a little bit to the inside. And I'm going to go ahead and do a set of 8 for a warm-up again. Go through that exact same process. Couple things, guys. Hopefully you saw that time. More integration of breath, control, speed into extension. from the hole, so I'm really controlling, focusing on the center of mass, and from here, boom, popping that hip, back up, into position, integrating breath, trying to breathe a little deeper every single rep. When I get done, I don't get in a race to get back into the rack. It's a big issue. Just like kettlebell swing, the first and the last rep, always the worst. They need to be the best. So when I get done, I'm not looking for the rack side to side. Another mistake people make, if I look to the right, what's happening on the left side? So I'm going to keep my eyes still, stand up with the weight, feet come together, start walking forward, hit the rack, run right into it. That's when you know you can bring the bar down and you're done. So jumping up in weight, 36 kilo, 80 pound bell. I'm going to swing this one a couple times, and then I'm going to put a band on it. We'll talk a little bit about why I'm using a band. Once again, as it gets a little heavier, I'm addressing the bell a little longer, really thinking about what I'm doing before I do it.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage. During these challenging times, our commitment to providing you with the best mortgage experience.
And again, I'm playing music in the background, something you guys need to be thinking about.
And we're prepared to help.
Commercial comes on, I don't give a shit. I'm not paying attention to that. I'm paying attention to what I'm doing. You can't get distracted no matter what's happening. Set 3, you'll see I'm going to try to keep bringing my hands a little bit closer, right? As it's getting heavier, my intention, mindfulness, my presence, the seriousness and the focus is also increasing, right? At the end of the day, every rep should look exactly the same. Okay, so I've got a band, a mini band, a red mini band from Rogue, strapped around the kettlebell. I basically take it, and I'll show you real quick how I'm doing this. I take it, I take one end through, and I do a girth hitch. Very simple girth hitch. Exactly the same way you would want to attach it to your rack if you were trying to use it for assistance exercises. Take a little slack out. From here, put it around the side of the handle, and tighten it right back up, spread it apart. Now, this is accommodating strength. I like to use bands a lot for strength training. We're talking about a whole series of videos that I could do. I just want to touch base on what it is how we use it, and especially why. So I've got an 80-pound bell that I've worked up to. Now, as opposed to continuing to use a heavy kettlebell and getting heavier and heavier, I've got them up to 109 pounds. I'm not looking to lift massive heavy weight with the swing. It's not the reason, it's not the purpose for the exercise. I want a heavy resistance that I can move ballistically. So if that bell is getting so heavy that it's impeded my form, number one, and two, the function of the exercise has changed to where I'm basically doing a squat in a squat, it makes no sense. The band is going to allow me to deal with just the weight of the kettlebell at the bottom, just like it would in a squat or a deadlift. All the extra resistance from the band is gone. Now I'm going to get an impulse. My whole mind and body, my nervous system is saying, throw! And as I do, it's going to act like an automatic brake. It's going to slow that bell down so I can throw it like it weighed 200 pounds. When I receive it, it's only 80 pounds. And when I throw it, again, the tension is coming up. Now here's something else to remember. The bands don't care. It's going to throw that weight right back down. So what must I do? I have to learn to catch it. So all of a sudden now I've got an exercise that not only activates me, enables me to get into power and throwing my hip, which from a tactical perspective is, fuck man, 100% of the battle, right? So it translates into how I move that barbell in the squat quickly. And also, if you think about your ollie lifts, it starts to help you engage, learning how to catch, how to get this dynamic energy and weight onto your body. So it looks something like this. I've got it spread out. I basically am looking at a triangle. Top of the kettlebell, my feet are on the outside. The band is in the center of the foot. Again, I address it, pull it into position, big deep breath, set the brace, set the wedge. Pay attention. Not done until the last rep is done. Stand up. Okay guys, we're going to talk about a couple of things. I'm going to do one last set. You're going to be on your own. Some protective gear. I'm not wearing a belt today. This is the first day I've done low bar back squats in a while. I use a cambered bar a lot, a safety cambered bar just to minimize the effects on my shoulders. I'm 51. I use the barbell, you know, maybe a couple of times a month if I feel like I'm getting out of practice. I throw the bar on there. If the bar is all you have, you might want to think about moving it from low bar. No high bars. We don't put anything on our back, and I don't like anything sitting in the belly of the trap. It's kind of stupid. So you can think about, if you can, go from a low bar to a front squat. If the front squat position is bothering you, you can cross the arms like this. You can also use wrist straps to help support the bar position. Another thing that you could do is take your bar, wedge it into the wall, and do landmine squats. They're very effective. It's hard to load enough weight up, but they're very effective. We'll definitely get into landmine exercises. A couple of things I want to do before I leave you and do this last set. Safety gear again. I'm not going to wear a belt today. I'm not going to go heavy enough to use one. I'm going to be very mindful of that. That's a precarious game that you must learn to play on your own. Safety is first. But if all you ever do is wear that belt, you're going to get addicted to it. Your body will not accommodate and get stronger. That's a problem. The one piece of safety gear that you'll see me use all the time, again, I'm 51 years old. I've been a martial artist my whole life. I am always thinking tactically. I am always thinking, what am I doing today in my strength programming that could affect me, that could create injury? and I can't get in a fight tomorrow. Sorry, dude, I can't fight you. I fucked up my wrist. Sorry, dude, I can't fight you. My back hurts. Sorry, I can't hump this rucksack up that mountain. Sorry, not a good day to get into a gunfight. At the end of the day, guys, terrorists don't give a fuck. Nobody cares. If you have exhausted yourself in the gym, if you can't train tomorrow, if you're injured, you're tactically ineffective, then what the fuck are we training for? Okay? So these little guys right here, this is just a basic wrist strap. It is an IPF standard. I think I got these off Amazon. I use them a lot. When we're low bar back squatting, your wrist and the metacarpal is under a lot of pressure, not stretch. The metacarpal won't stretch, guys. The front rack position and also the position where the bar is in on the back squat can really hurt the wrist for a lot of people. I don't take that chance, man. If I'm doing anything where I'm in a hyper flexion in the wrist, where that wrist is really pressing back into a front rack position, I am wearing wrist straps. I do not want to be injured. As your wrist, as you get older, bench pressing, things like that, this will keep you up at night if you don't mitigate those. So safety first, wear the gear that you think you need, but start to warm up slowly and then start to bring it into the game, and you will learn over time when it's time to use it and when it's time to get rid of it. Last thing I want to leave you with, and then I'm going to go over and do this last little squat. I don't want to get too much into programming, methods of strength training. There are so many we will cover. I want to leave you with this, and I touched on it a little bit. It's the why I'm strength training to begin with. I'm wanting to get stronger. No shit. Stronger, why? Stronger, how? What is my purpose? My purpose for me, and what I always am trying to give to my clients, and poetically, we're in the middle of it. We are now in week 4. We're going into week 4 of quarantine from this coronavirus. The fucking world is as weird today as anything I've ever experienced. There's nobody alive today who have experienced anything like what we are right now. I am confident things are not going to go back to normal. If you're interested in getting stronger and you want to coach, that's going to probably be an in-person or online deal. Gyms, I do not think are going to open up this year. It's not going to happen, guys. So with that being said, now is the time more than ever to get your ass in shape, to be thinking about the big picture, which is a possible depression, possible food shortages, the money system, the banking system. There's going to be a mortgage crisis. I mean, there's fucking chaos coming, man. And I've always told my clients, at the end of the day, right, we're training for the apocalypse. We're training for the fucking worst case scenario, and we're fucking there, guys. So I'm always thinking tactically, and we'll get into that. We'll get into how do we bring firearms into training? How do we train in such a way that my strength training is just an element of my tactical training. The way I fight is the way I am going to train. So everything that we're doing in here should be done as a martial art. It should be done with mental focus first. Perfection. You hear me playing music in the background, right? That's also a part of getting your mindset, being present, being where you need to be. So you use music to elicit an emotional response, because your emotions are just another tool in the suitcase, and you need to learn how to implement those, how to move out of fear and move into a state of presence, of nowness, right now. There's a lot of different ways that we can get into that through breath control, etc. But again, there's a lot of things that we're going to cover over time. I'm going to do a video every fucking day. Remember, the way you train is the way you fight. I'm going to finish with one more set, and you guys are on your own. Till the next time, please, any questions, anything I can do to help you guys out. I have really awesome online training programming. I do use Trainerize, which is a very popular system, but all the videos and everything that I use are all personalized, all the programming, there's nothing automated. It's just me and you. So one last set, and I'm going to leave you guys to your day of hopefully no debauchery, no drinking today. Kettlebell swings, low bar back squat. Stop exercising, start fucking training.